The bone was pointed at you. Not only did the community find you invisible, but you would be dead in a very short time. And that's the power of the mind. Because when it comes to cancer and most other diseases, the first thing is getting the mindset right. Just about, they haven't found anybody that hasn't got underlying anger when they've got cancer. So there's a suppressed anger or there's underlying anger, and that's got to go. With cancer, it has a vibration. It goes into our heart, into our mind, and it thrives on that vibration. So our thinking and our emotions are crucial to fix cancer. So I'm going to say something now which will offend some people. I'll say that CBD, cannabidiol, and THC, tetrahydrocannabidiol, do not cure anything. They don't. They allow the body to go into homeostasis, allow the body to be able to cure itself. So the gentleman before, Tony Fitzgerald, amazing man who's out there putting media out there and having everybody contact him. He's very busy with people saying, how do I get a hold of this stuff? And come to Nimbin. But the authority that we give our doctors and our oncologists, and the way I've seen them bully people into believing the only way forward is to be radiated, chemically treated or operated on, which now a lot of doctors are saying to me is in 10 years will be considered primitive, the dark ages of cancer. And I can't wait for that to stop. I have my own journey, which I'll talk about in a second, but don't give our power away. I had over 28 oncologists say that I had no chance of life. I had over 4 or 5 other doctors say you're going to be dead. To the extent that in 9th of May last year, I was admitted to hospital, bleeding out from my carotid artery. They gave me minutes to hours to live because they couldn't even replace the artery because the cancer had eaten right through it. So you've got to face that death. You've got an X about to fall on your head. They gave me 520 milligrams of morphine, which was 20 milligrams less than a lethal dose of my body weight at the time. And the reason for that, and it was just out of compassion, they thought I was going to die within minutes and hours, and this would make my passing a lot more comfortable. But I didn't die. And after nearly a month in hospital, I came out with 520 milligram pumping morphine into my body daily. And getting rid of the cancer was easier than getting rid of the morphine. Tell you what, getting rid of those opiates. We are the biggest opiate user in the world, Australia. Biggest per capita. So anyway, getting off morphine is an interesting trick, and it takes time and it takes pain. Cancer, I might just bring up a picture there of how it started. In 2014, I had a tiny little red spot on my forehead I couldn't get rid of. So I went to my GP and he took a little sample out, and a week later he said, you've got squamous cell carcinoma, and we're going to have to cut it out. And after a little biopsy on my forehead, that was the result after 2 months. It just, if you cut into a cancer or you biopsy it, it has a tendency to get aggressive and start growing. So it started to grow. Then they operated on me, cut it out with clear margins. So here you can see that that was just after the operation, and they cut out a lot of stuff. So when you've got cancer, they want to take out a whole lot of stuff. And then they wanted me back 6 weeks later. During that time, I lost my eyesight in my right eye and then in my left eye. So I had to go be driven to hospital, and while I was there, Master City oncologist who examined me and said, we're going to give you radiation for the next 6 weeks. We're going to do it 5 days a week. You can have the weekend off, and you're going to need the weekend off. And I said, why? I said, well, with head and neck cancers, it's standard protocol to radiate you after we've operated. I said, we're putting the cart before the horse. He said, what do you mean? I said, why don't we find out if it's gone anywhere else in my body before we start radiating, you know? Oh, good idea. So I had a scan. After I came out of the machine, they had a trolley there, so you're going to go to another doctor who is a ultrasound expert on cancer. You're going to have a look at it and maybe take a biopsy. So they had a look and said, yeah, you've got typical cancer in the left node, in the lymph node. Took a biopsy, looked at it on the spot, said you've got stage 3 squamous cell. And then they sent it to the laboratory to confirm it. Then a few days later, a team of oncologists examined me, and as Tony said, they stick tubes up your nose, nasal passages. You get a oncologist that comes up and checks, is a dental oncologist, checks your teeth, because if you're going to get radiation, you can't have metal fillings. So if you've got metal fillings, you want to have radiation, they're going to come out, depending where they're going to radiate you. And a whole bunch of others came and examined me. And they decided that for me to have a chance of life, they're going to, like Tony said, they're going to cut me from here to here, across here and across here, peel all the skin back, take out all the glands and all the nodes, so that they get clear margins. For this little lymph node in my neck, which you couldn't see, you had to feel it. They're going to cut all this tissue away. They're going to go through nerves. One will affect your tongue, you won't be able to speak. One will affect your left shoulder, you'll have limited mobility. Another one will give you general palsy, and you'll look very strange because all the tissue's gone. You'll be 2 weeks in hospital. Then you go home for 5 or 6 weeks, you come back, and then you're radiated for another 6 weeks. I said, okay, how long have I got to live if I do this? I said, what's the minimum time someone's died after you've done all this? Oh, well, I said, what's the minimum? They said 2 months. Mm-hmm. And what's the average? Well, 5 years. You've got 5 years. Okay, what's it at 6 years? Well, it plummets. And after 7, 8 years, there's no life. So they're giving me from 2 months to 8 years. And during that period, most probably have to go back for other kinds of treatments and operations, which the attorney went through and others go through. It's barbaric. Anyway, so I said, no, I've been helping people for 40 years. I've treated people for cancer. I'll be able to fix this myself. They said it's very aggressive. I said, yeah, I'll fix it. I was a little bit wrong. I tried every known modality, evidence-based modality for 2 years. In the end, just before I was admitted to hospital, and because the cancer had eaten into my carotid artery, that's when it was small. And it's around this time that it ate into my carotid artery, and I woke up one morning feeling pretty good, feeling pretty cool and good in bed, and I felt a bit damp on my neck, and I put my hand away, there was blood there from the bandage, and it was on top. I went to the bathroom, peeled the bandage off, and I was bleeding, and I thought, this is not good. So because one of the dangers is that I knew it would eat into the carotid artery if I was unlucky, and it did. So I went there, 2 emergency doctors then called in an ENT surgeon down as well in the hospital, and they had a look. They said, we can actually see with the light, we can see your carotid artery. We cannot operate on this. First of all, we cut through your clavicle here and take everything out there. And there isn't enough stuff to attach it to. It's just a mess. So I said, what are you saying? He said, get your affairs in order. I said, how long have I got? They said, if you sneeze, cough, laugh, or your blood pressure goes up, you're dead. You'll bleed out. So how long have I got? They said, minutes to hours. I said, okay. So I was put into a room right next to the nurse's station. They pumped me full of morphine, put a little catheter in here. I said, what's that for? So as you're passing, we'll inject an anti-anxiety drug into your arm. So I'm not too worried about dying. I said, just, take that out. But I survived. And for all kinds of reasons which are maybe more spiritual than anything else. But I'd researched, just before this had happened, as a last resort, I thought I'll look at medicinal cannabis. And remember, there's 2 components to it. There's the industrial hemp plant, where we get CBD and all its derivatives, has no psychotropic effect. Mothers produce it in their breast milk when they're breastfeeding. Medical authorities are trying to work out how that happens. And then when they stop breastfeeding, it disappears. And the other component is THC and its derivatives that comes from the marijuana plant, which can have psychotropic effect. So in combination, so let's say we put a healing factor of 2 to CBD and a healing factor of 1 to THC. And this information is continually changing because I'm in communication with doctors and researchers around the world. And every few months, we're discovering things about how these products act and overcoming some of the old beliefs about what needed to be done for healing people in regards to CBD and THC. It's a moving target. Zane said there's over 700 compounds in them, and they're discovering how these all act. You've got CBDA, CBDG, CBDM. And if you get a whole of plant, industrial plant, and you cold extract, let's say CO2, you get the whole plant, which is very important because it's natural. At the moment, the pharmaceutical industry have got this theory that say if we can't beat them, we'll join them. So they look at the marijuana plant, they look at the hemp plant, so let's extract something out of here. What can we synthesize? Okay, we can synthesize CBD, and then we can manufacture that. And then we have all our representatives going to the doctors and say, if you want to use this product, fill out this page. This is not quite happening in Australia, but overseas, and we'll not copy that. And then they get a history of how this product does not work. Because this and carotid and some other products are the most devastating products that pharmaceuticals look at for their business. The biggest profit margin that pharmaceuticals make is in chemotherapy. The second biggest is asthmatic medication. They're both oxygen related. So they look at this, they synthesize, they're going to have a whole bunch of evidence they're going to prove to government and say, here we've got 2 years of people taking CBD and they bloody died. You know, it's crap, it doesn't work. Because it's not natural. And it won't work, it has side effects. Every time you look at a drug from a pharmaceutical company, as I said, pharmaceutical companies aren't going to like me today. If you look at a drug from a pharmaceutical company, it's basically research from plants, the vast majority, and some are from poisonous animals like frogs and snakes and spiders and sea creatures that have toxins. And if they can then replicate that and synthesize it and patent it, then they'll bring it to market. But it's no longer a proper product for the human body. So you've got to have whole of plants. So oils ain't oils. You know, your CBDs, depending on how you manufacture that, is pretty tricky. So I researched what I believed, and people out there can argue with me, suppliers, but I thought that the Endoka product from Denmark, where the CEO was very ethical, and he was trying to help people and cold extracted it, is one of the best products. And THC can be grown anywhere. Australia grows some brilliant THC, and I got that locally as well. So those two products I started to take as a last resort. Started taking it in hospital. And what happens is, what's this slide? Oh, the endocannabinoid system. I'm speaking to a doctor who's now teaching it to the university, new students, medical students. So I've got a great faith for the future. They talk about the endocannabinoid system, the second biggest system in the human body now, and they're talking about CBD and THC, which is a great thing. Can we have another slide? Okay, yeah, more horrific one. The next one. Yeah, keep going. Yeah, it kept growing. This is what I want to say. I started on CBD and THC, and I went away to a friend's place not far from here. I moved down to Yukai and stayed with a very good friend. And I was taking CBD and THC daily. And that tumour kept growing and growing. And I was daily had a nurse cleaning out the wound. I was on still 500, and that's about as big as it got. And it's pretty clean there. At that point, the inflammation, which was down to my chest, started to retreat. So the purple skin came back to that area. And I said, I'm cured. And they said, well, you know, the doctor, which came out every 10 days to look at me, I said, we know you're very positive, but this is something you don't come back from, you know. Anyway, so, and that's when it started to hypergranulate or supergranulate. So that's the healing process. They also said to me, you've got such a big hole, you're going to need a skin graft. Now, at this point, I couldn't walk 30 meters without a cane. I was in big trouble. It was more from the high dose of, you know, morphine than anything else, and the other drugs that help keep you in check from the morphine. And I said, no, I'm not going to have a skin graft. And he said, well, Michael, that's a huge hole, and that's not going to heal naturally, or it might in 3 months' time. You'll have all kinds of scarring. You won't be able to turn your head or your neck. And so you need to have that done. You know, we know you're stubborn about things, but this needs to be done. I said, no. And when you tell doctors no, when they say to you, this is what they want you to do, and you say no, they get very offended. They get offside. I've learned that from all the doctors that said I was going to die. So I decided to make a bit light out of it, and I said, so you're going to take a piece out of my butt, aren't you? I said, yep. General anesthetic? I said, yep. We're going to cut a piece out, and we're going to put it there, and we're going to stitch up your butt, and we're going to stitch up your neck. All in one operation, you know. I said, okay. So here we've got a body that's in big trouble. It's just most probably got rid of cancer. It's got no real reserves because it's eaten away by the opioids. So you want to do an operation on me, and I'm most probably going to go under with more anesthetic and stuff like that and compromise the body even further. He said, well, it's necessary. I said, no. And of course, then they get their back up because they think you're being illogical. So I made a joke out of it. I said, look, you know, I'm a single man. Maybe in the future I might find a lady. And if I have that bit of butt on there, they kiss me on the neck, or give me a cuddle, they're kissing my ass. And of course that relaxed and they laughed. I said, oh yeah, let him go, he's an idiot. You know, we won't do the operation. So that's the size of it. And then at the next slide, please, then it got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller till that was just after it closed up. The scarring today is minimal, it's still there. This is a year ago, right, or almost a year ago. And it took 1 month to close up, naturally. 1 month, and I can turn my head every which way. So I still say CBD and THC don't cure anything. They allow the body to fix itself. But the most important thing about all of this is to get the mindset right. So because of Tony and other people, I came back to Brisbane and people said, you've survived this. How did you do that? This. Can you help us? And suddenly it becomes like a virus, people are communicating with you and want help. Because everybody out there wants help. And everyone can help someone. You can't not everybody can help everybody, but every individual can help someone else. It's like a community. We can help people here. You can help your neighbours, you can help your friends. And I made a vow last year when I was in the throes of going to die. I said, did I get through this? Because I saw a baby on the ABC news, and this little baby was 3 months old. It was bright red. It was crying its eyes out. And the news said this baby born with cancer being radiated, 5 to 6 days out of 7. What a way to come into this world, to be tortured with radiation and burning, and what a horrible thing. I said, when I'm going to fix this up, I'm going to start helping people. I'm going to change my life. For the next 60 years, 62 years, whatever, I'm going to help people. And funny enough, the universe looks after you if you help people, if you're helping people, if you just do that. I think we can all do that. Give a little bit of time to someone else. The important thing with cancer is, first of all, the mind. You've got to forgive yourself, and you've got to forgive everybody else that you imagine has slighted you in life. Forget about injustice. You've got to love yourself, and you've got to love everybody else. If you can get this change of vibration, and I use the 4 agreements or the 5th agreement, look it up. Great way to start loving yourself and others. If you do that, it has a major impact on your disease and your cancer. The next thing, the next tier down, I believe is CBD THC. CBD is now known as the world's greatest anti-inflammatory. And all your diseases are based on inflammatory or lack of oxygen or acidity. So you want to become alkaline, just like Zane says, like everybody else says, get oxygen working. I've talked to a lot of oncologists, and some I want to throttle, but it's basically that, they don't know. When we accuse our police of doing things there, they're following the rules. At the symposium that Tony was talking about, and Michael Balderdash and Sista, a lot of people attended, the head of Australia Police is always the Australian Federal Police Commissioner. This gentleman had just recently retired, and he spoke at the symposium, and he said, this is how ridiculous the law is. The law is an ass. He said, I can go into my back garden and I can grow some grapes. I can let them get ripe. I can stomp on them, ferment them, make a nice wine, invite a friend over and get drunk. I'm not breaking the law. If I grow an industrial hemp plant at the back, which has no toxic level at all, no toxicity at all, that's very rare, even vitamin C has a toxic level, no toxic level to CBD, and the industrial hemp plant has no psychotropic effects. In other words, you can't get off your face. If I grow that in my back garden, depending what state I'm in, I'm a criminal. That's how ridiculous the law is. He said, I've never asked any AFP person to raid, to burn, or to confiscate marijuana. It's ridiculous, he said. And there was Australia's top policeman saying that. So I'm not against, the cops. Democracy, doesn't matter who you vote for, it's the same joke. They're all influenced by lobbyists and money, and all you've got to do is follow the money to see where everything starts and finishes. And it goes much higher than our politicians. They all get influenced by these sort of things. So I don't want to headbutt against them. I've talked to politicians, and they first get a smoke on their face. They're thinking back to the days when they're 17 smoking a bong in high school. And by the time I'm finished with them, they think, damn, we need to change things. And New South Wales, the Minister for Health here, so the Beard government had changed the laws under Mr. Haslam, the ex-policeman, urging him, because they knew each other, saying, we've got to change this, and he did change it. The next government came in and put the laws back again. And then myself and a few others spoke at the Ethics Centre in Sydney in March this year, and 2 gentlemen came up to me in a suit. I always get nervous when that happens. Anyway, they said, You know, I'm the Minister of Health of New South Wales, and I'm the other Minister of this, and we're going to change the laws back again. So I believe they have. It's become law in fact now, so you've got a lot more. I'm not sure, you can tell me if it's different in New South Wales. I'm told there's a lot more leniency now, and they've changed the law. I wouldn't have a clue. I'd be able to keep up with it. Because the laws are changing in each state all the time. But this community here has allowed people to survive. And whether they know it or not, it's one of the great medical communities in the world. That one I showed you, that videotape about hemp being a huge cash crop, Australia, as you know, is a great place to grow it. You know, and getting licenses is not easy. It's being restricted. But what a product industrial hemp can be to clean our planet, let alone produce CBD, which is one of the greatest anti-inflammatories known to mankind. But everybody here is, I'm talking to the converted, I know that. I'm not sure if I've educated you in anything. I can tell you the horrendous story I went through for my period of time, and the pain and all the crap I had to go through, and then trying to get off morphine, which every 10 days I reduced, and it was an agony. And there may be simpler ways to get out of it. I do know that some of the side effects of the addiction were reduced by CBD and THC. And CBD, and I'm getting doctors now coming to me and saying, can you help us? I've got a condition. So that's an interesting change, you know. An enlightened doctor saying, you know, I want you to help me. Can you teach me how to dose it up? Can you triage me? You know, tell me what I need to do. CBD, you can give someone gallons, there's no toxic level. And Professor David Caldecott, Dr. David Caldecott, who's probably the foremost authority on toxicology in this country, trains more doctors in emergency procedures, and is now going around the country training doctors on how to prescribe or triage or dose CBD. THC is an issue because it's still very touchy in respect of a doctor being able to provide that. But you need both in most instances. He gave this beautiful slide, which I wish I had, which shows a sandbag full of marijuana head or bud or flower. And that sandbag is put on a pallet. And you keep putting on that pallet sandbags of marijuana head. And you get it a metre and a half high. And then you have 8 pallets of that. That's how much THC you'd have to consume in one day to have a toxic effect. Now, even Nimbin would be pressured to smoke or eat that in 1 year, right? That's a lot of THC. So it really isn't that toxic, you know. And nobody, and that's the other thing that amazed me, is that nobody's supposedly gotten lung cancer from smoking it, because the THC, of course, knocks off the cancer. So that's interesting. The only person they claim could have died from it, the gentleman that fell off his balcony, and he also had half a bottle of, I think, Jim Beam in his belly. So we don't know whether he smoked a joint, and because that was in his system, or whether it was the alcohol. But yeah, amazing product, and very, very helpful. And oils ain't oils. You've got to get the right product. And if you get a pharmaceutical product, I've seen people that have been on that for 9 months, and the condition deteriorated. So you've got to get the right product. And there's a lot of good advice here on what products are available. So I think I'll wrap up there. Thanks, Michael. Thanks for the community.
So we've had some pretty courageous people, I think you'd all agree. So I really appreciate Michael coming down today. He's got quite a story. Now we've got another Michael Harding. He's here, I hope. Here he comes, with Brooke. Maybe Beck's here or not. Now Michael, I think we only met you a couple of years ago, and him and friends has started the Weeded Warriors. Weeded Warriors, correct?
Yes.
And what's the American mob called? Something different?
There's a few, but there's Weed for Warriors Project, Santa Cruz Veterans Alliance, and then in Canada
anyway,
marijuana.
Yeah. And they're doing, I see in America now, they're doing experiments for PTSD with psilocybin and MDMA, and MDMA is going to become legal. All the police busting ecstasy and magic mushrooms, that's the same.